Sometimes it's really hard to say goodbye, isn't it? I bet you have had some tough goodbyes in your life. I know for me, when my kids went off to college, for example, it was tough for me to say goodbye. I was excited for them, but it was still tough. Like, how'd it go by so fast? Or maybe it's when you take a new job and move across the country and you have to say goodbye to all your people and your places, and it can be hard. I don't really have to say anything about when we lose people, when people are dying, that we know how hard that is. In the movies, there's some really classic goodbye scenes with famous and moving parting words between people. I want to share a few of those just for fun. I don't know if we have any Star Wars fans out there. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but there's a scene that struck me in one of the more recent Star Wars movies where C-3PO is going to be going off on a mission and he's not coming back. And he stands there just looking. Someone says to him, C-3PO, what are you doing? And he says, I'm looking one last time upon my friends. One last time upon my friends. I guess it can even be hard for a robot to say goodbye. Or what about the classic scene in Dead Poets Society when these young men, their teacher, this person who's been so influential on their life, has been fired. He's leaving the school, he's leaving their lives, and as he leaves, they stand on their desks and they say these words, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." Powerful, parting words. Or we could go to Black and White, classic Casablanca with this famous parting scene and two really famous phrases. One, we'll always have Paris. And the other one, here's looking at you, kid. Or what about E.T.? At the end of the movie E.T. takes his finger and he puts it on his heart. And he says, ouch. Yeah, ouch. And then he puts his finger on little Elliot's head and says, I will always be with you. Powerful parting words that we see in these movies and so many others. In the Gospel of Matthew, it ends pretty abruptly. At the end of chapter 27, Jesus is dead and in the tomb. Chapter 28 begins, and in 20 verses, it all wraps up and is done. And I got to say, I kind of want a little more. I want a little more about, well, what did they say? What were their parting words? What did it feel like? What did it look like in that moment? In my imagination, I'd love to write a scene exploring what that parting might have been like. And if I was to do that, I think it might look a lot like a scene in Winnie the Pooh. And that's why I'm coming to you today from the 100-Acre Wood. Did you know that this was the 100-Acre Wood? In that scene in Winnie the Pooh, Christopher Robin knows that he's going to be leaving the 100-Acre Wood. And he's trying to talk to Pooh about his leaving. He's trying to tell him about this in a way that he'll understand. And he says to him, he says, Pooh, what if someday there came a tomorrow when we were apart? What if there came a tomorrow when we were apart? And Pooh says, in his classic Pooh way, well, as long as we're apart together, I think everything will be fine. Yeah. And then Christopher Robin and Pooh sit in a tree at dusk. And Christopher Robin looks into Pooh's bare eyes and says to him, Pooh, I want you to remember this. You're braver than you believe. You're stronger than you seem. You're smarter than you think. Because Christopher Robin's going to be leaving, and he wants Pooh to know this, to know that he's brave, to know that he's strong, to know that he's smart, even when his good friend isn't with him. And then Christopher Robin puts out his finger and he captures some fireflies on that dusky evening, with their soft, warm glow. And he takes those fireflies and he tucks them into Pooh's chest. And he says, Pooh, I will always be with you. I will always be with you. Powerful words. And those aren't just Pooh's words. Those are Jesus' words. As the Gospel of Matthew concludes, even though I'd like there to be more, the very last words of that Gospel are so profound and deep when Jesus says to his followers, I will be with you always, always, even until the end of the age. Jesus says to his followers and to us, I will be with you. You know, Jesus had tried many times, as we read the Gospels, to tell his followers he would be leaving. He had tried to tell them over and over again, but like Pooh, they didn't seem to want to listen. They didn't seem to hear it. They just kind of skated by it. But Jesus knew that they would be, in the wise words of Pooh, apart together. And though that parting would be sad, as goodbyes so often are, Jesus knew that it was going to be okay. And like Christopher Robin's fireflies, Jesus took the divine light of God and tucked it into the hands of his followers, tucked it into the heart of his followers, knowing that they would be the ones who would guard it, that they would be the ones who would share it, that they would be the ones who would love those who are hurting, those who would feed the hungry, those who would lift up the downtrodden, those who would take those who are on the outside and bring them on the inside. Jesus knew they would carry that light and share that light with the world, that they would carry out the gospel mission that he brought to them. And not just that they would carry it out, but that they would pass it on, and then you and I, that we would carry it out together. I don't know about you, but when I hear that, I think, how unlikely is that you and I are the ones who are entrusted to carry out the gospel mission? I mean, I can barely get to work on time half the time, and we together are entrusted with this gospel mission, all of us who come from different places and who are so different from each other, and we're supposed to carry that out? How are we going to do that? Well, I think a good example of that for us might be if we look at those characters that roam around here in the 100-acre wood. They're all different. They come from different experiences. They're different species, all right? And yet somehow they come together and they make it work. Rabbits and donkeys and kangaroos and bears come together and find a way to create something. They create a family. They create a community that's so much bigger than any of them are when they are apart. They create something really beautiful together, even with all the issues that they have. And they have their issues, right? I mean, Piglet is scared. Eeyore is depressed. Rabbit is cynical. Tigger is manic. Kanga has a little bit of social anxiety. And Little Roo is, well, Little Roo, right? But together they make something up together. Can you imagine any of them alone, on their own? Like, and we see this once in a while in the story, don't we? When Rabbit goes off by himself, or Tigger is running around in the woods, upset at everybody else. And they're just lonely, and it's sad. And when you watch it, you just want them to come back together, because together, for all their differences and all their struggles and all their imperfections, they make something really beautiful together. And I think we do that too. We're different. We come from different places. We have different experiences. We have different struggles and hardships. And yet when we come together, we are a people together who can carry the light of God, can carry that light and share it with the world. And then you have Pooh Bear. Well, what do you say about Pooh Bear? You might say he's just naive, right? He's not even aware enough or with it enough to be scared or depressed or cynic or manic. he's just naive. Well, that might be one way to describe Pooh. Another way might be to say, you know what? Maybe Pooh just has an innate sense of trust. Just somehow a deep knowing that, in the end, it's going to be all right. That all his strivings and work and the strivings of all those around him aren't really that big a deal. Because in the end, somehow they're going to find their way. Now, Pooh doesn't want to say goodbye to Christopher Robin, and Christopher Robin doesn't really want to say goodbye to Pooh. But they need to. They have to. They need to say goodbye to each other, and they need to move forward in a new way. And I think when they have this closing scene together, it's a really beautiful parting scene with beautiful parting words as they sit on a tree together. And as we come to the conclusion of the Gospel of Matthew, which kind of wraps up our sort of post-Easter season in the life of the church here, we hear these last words of Jesus. And I think these last words, and to read the Gospel, is a little bit like Christopher Robin and Pooh sitting together on a tree branch on a dusky evening. To hear Jesus say to us, I will always be with you. To know that Jesus entrusts us with this light, with this great work, with this love to share with the world and with each other. And maybe we can hear Jesus say to us those words that Christopher Robin says, because I think Jesus would say those exact words to each one of us. Can you hear those words spoken to you? You are braver than you believe. You're stronger than you seem. You are smarter than you think. Yeah, you are strong. You're brave. You're smart. And Jesus entrusts you and me together with the light to share with the world. And we're left with one last line, and maybe there's no better last line than this one from the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus saying to his followers, Jesus saying to me, and Jesus saying to you, I will be with you always, even until the end of the age. That's a long time. Yeah, that's a really long